Hi everyone, this is Nojo from Thranda Design. In partnership with JustFlight, we're very excited to be bringing the BAe-146 to X-Plane 11. So this is the first in a series of tutorial videos for the BAe-146. This first video will be an introduction to the aircraft and cockpit, and subsequent videos will cover engine starting, taxi takeoff and initial climb procedures, and descent, approach, and landings. Now I realized to do this properly I should have a British accent, but I don't, I'm just not that good with voices. So, the BAe-146 was designed by British Aerospace Engineering as a short-distance regional airliner, and it first flew in 1981. It has a high wing with large high-lift flaps, which gives it unusually good short takeoff and landing performance, especially for an airliner. It's powered by 4 Avro-Lycoming ALF 502 turbofans. These engines do not incorporate thrust reversers, so a large clamshell air brake is fitted to the back of the fuselage, as well as lift spoilers on top of the wings. Now while we're here, let's take a look at the 2D pop-ups. So we have this arrow, we can make it transparent by using the mouse scroll wheel, but clicking on the arrow will bring up the menu. This first lightning bolt icon will toggle the airplane between cold and dark and engines running. Next are the checklists, then the flight computer, and then the animations panel where we can open and close doors and hook up the ground power card and so forth. Then we have the autopilot pop-ups. The next one toggles the VSI, the vertical speed indicator, between a mechanical version and an electronic version that incorporates TCAS, or Traffic Collision Avoidance System. Next is the TMS, or Thrust Modulation System. We'll use this in the takeoff tutorial video. And finally we have the weather radar. Additionally, if we come inside the plane, we have another pop-up incorporated directly in the 3D cockpit. By clicking here on this black square, we bring up our tablet display. Across the top we have an info bar. Over here we have controls for the same animations that are in the animations tab, like here, GPU, the doors, the stairs, etc. But additionally we can control the fuel weights. Here we have left, center, and right fuel. We have the forward and aft cargo weights, and also the passenger total, the number of passengers. All of these can be manipulated by clicking on the minus or plus signs, or by scrolling the mouse scroll wheel to smoothly adjust them. And in the case of the fuel weights, a single left click will set them to maximum, and in the case of the cargo and passenger totals, left click will toggle between empty and full. Additionally, we can change the weight units between kilograms and pounds, depending whichever system you're more familiar with. And here, over on the right, we have verbal announcements for the pilot asking the flight attendants to secure the seats for takeoff and landing, etc. And we have a readout of our weights, our empty weight, our zero fuel weight, which is the empty weight plus any cargo and passengers, our total fuel weight, and finally the total gross weight of the aircraft. Now, if we get over the maximum gross weight, we'll notice it will turn red, indicating we are overweight. Additionally, this incorporates the Avitab Plugin. We can click here to switch between the JustFlight pop-up, which is what we're seeing now, and Avitab. In my case, I don't have it installed, so it gives me a pop-up asking if I would like to download it. If I click yes, it will bring up the download page in a browser window, or in my case, for now, we'll just click no, and we can go back to the JustFlight tab by clicking on that button. And finally, when we're ready to get the tablet out of our way, we can just click the power button here and it will disappear once again. So we can toggle it. Click, click. The BAe package comes with 3 main variants of the aircraft and 4 sub-variants for a total of 7 different aircraft configurations, with many different liveries. Right now we're looking at the 100 variant. Here is the stretched 200 variant, the 200 QC, which is a combination passenger-freighter version, the 200 QT, which is a dedicated freighter, the version of the 200 which is used by the Royal Air Force, the further stretched 300, and the 300 QT, which is the dedicated freighter version of the 300. So now, let's do a quick tour inside the cockpit. Starting on the overhead panel, up here in the corner we have the miscellaneous panel, which includes avionics switches, as well as yaw damper, ground ignition, brake fans, and anti-skid and lift spoilers. Here we have the hydraulics panel with the pump switches and pressures. Here's our fuel panel system with fuel pumps and cross-feed and common feed valves. The electric panel, where we can view the voltage and ammeters for different systems, as well as turning on and off different buses. Over here we have the APU panel for the auxiliary power unit. This here is our engine start panel for controlling starting of the engine. And ice protection, here for the engine ice protection, and up here is the windshield and pitot heat ice protection and surface de-ice here. Moving upward, we have pressurization panels and controls. Over here is our air supply, controlling either bleed air from the engines or from the APU, which can then go to the packs, which provide pressurization and air conditioning. So here we can control the temperature of the cabin and flight deck. Up here we have our ground test panel for before flight tests for various functions, and lights and notices. These include some external lights like the logo, beacon, and strobe lights, and also cabin emergency lights and no smoking signs. Here in the center we have our 4 engine fire handles, where pulling will isolate the fuel and hydraulics from the engine, shut it down, and then rotating will fire the extinguishers. We can test the extinguisher lighting there. And then down here, toward the front, is some more of our external lights, like the landing lights, runway exit lights, and the fasten seatbelt sign, and windscreen wipers. Moving on to the main panel, down here on the left, we have some panel instrument and lighting controls, cockpit voice recorder. Way down under here are the audio panels, so controlling radios transmit and receive. And here, let's get the yoke out of the way. We'll click at the base of it. Here we can see the pilot's main instrument panel. Across the glare shield, we have the master warning and master caution, as well as nav1 and DME. And then the autopilot modes, autopilot selectors, and nav2. And here are the engine instruments for each of the 4 engines, and fuel gauges down below. Here we have flap indicators, roll spoilers, and landing gear position indicators, and the master warning system panel, which provides the main warnings. This is our V-speeds booklet, which will automatically set to our current weight to give us our V-speeds. This is the TMS, or that thrust modulation system. We'll see that in the takeoff tutorial video. And the co-pilot instruments. Now moving on to the center panel, the initial version of this plane will ship with the default FMS from X-Plane, but custom FMS is in the works for a future update. So we have the FMS, as well as the weather radar. Down here we have COM1 and COM2 radios. Moving aft, we have the throttle quadrant for the 4 engine thrust levers, air brake control, and flap control. Here are trims, trim control, and wheel brakes. Down here, this is how we actually turn on the autopilot. This toggles the autopilot servos. This is our transponder, and we also can enter a flight number if we want. So we could, let's say JustFlight. So J, we'll type for J, enter. 1, 2, 3, 4 for F, enter. We'll go 0, 0, 7. JustFlight 007. There we go. Back to the transponder. This is our brake temperature indicator. We can see the individual main brake disc temperatures on the left outer inner, right inner outer, or the maximum of all of them. And then here is our ADF, automatic direction finder radio, to tune in NDBs. And then these are just some lighting controls. And finally, if we take a look back here, we can open the cockpit door, click, and then we can see back into the cabin. This is the 300 model, so it goes quite a ways, but the 100 is noticeably shorter. We can see the doors, over here the other door, and so that way you can wander around the interior of the aircraft as well. So I hope you all enjoyed this first intro video to the BAe-146. In the next tutorial video, we'll look at engine starting from a cold and dark state, so I hope to see you all there. Thanks for watching.